All right, thank you so much for viewing my channel today. I still remain the English master. Please, if you're a prospective WAEC candidate, NECO or JAM, and you are aspiring to pass literature in English, or maybe you are be having issues with literature or English language, please comment below and say, English master, help me. I'm going to help you, but make sure when you comment and I reply that you follow up the instructions. And I promise you that you are going to come out with good grade. Nevertheless, because of time factor, one of my fan and my follower whom have subscribed requested that I should make a video or a teaching on how to identify figure of speech and know them in sentences or among write-ups. And I have worked on that topic, and today here I am to present the topic. And I want to use this opportunity to thank all of you. The channel is really growing, even though I'm just doing it as a part-time something, but the speed and positive comment has asked. But is somehow miraculous to me. Thank you so much. Please refer your friends, uh, neighbors, or especially those who want to write WAEC and NECO. Thank you. Quickly, I have before you 5 ways to identify figures of speech and know them. And know them maybe in sentences, maybe in textbooks, notebooks, or other related, even in speech, while someone is speaking, how to identify figures of speech and know them. Quickly, number one, when a word or when a word or an expression is used figuratively, when a word or an expression, what is expression? Maybe someone said something, but that thing lost its original meaning, which we call literal meaning. Literal meaning. What do we mean by literal meaning? When something does not retain, when a word does not retain the original meaning. What do I mean? If I say, I am a boy, it means I am a boy. If I say, I am a man, it means I am a man. That is what we call literal meaning. It means what that word or what those group of words or what group of phrases or sentences said, and they retain it as the original meaning. That is what we call literal meaning. But when a word or group of words has been used figuratively, that means creatively, stylishly, to create something that led to that group of words losing their original meaning. That means you have identified a figure of speech. But let me simply define figures of speech for it to help us in this teaching. Because of space, I was unable to do that. Simple definition of figure of speech is just a skill or style by which writers used in creating something that sounds bombastic or beautifying the work of art. Skill or style or format that writers, poets used in creating something that sounds bombastic or beautifying the work of art. How do you beautify the work of art? It lived the normal day-to-day usage of words to what? Something that cause people to be amazed, to grow gaga, that sound bombastic, that took people off guard. So that is figure of speech. Then in defining literature, I also have a simple meaning, which is what? Literature simply means mirror. Literature is a mirror. As simple as that. It's a mirror that we use to mirror ourselves and the society. So everything that happens in the society, literature captures them or captures it. We use it to check ourselves. So that is what literature. Now, having said that, when a word lose its original meaning, literal meaning, a writer or a poet creatively created something that makes that word to be something that makes someone or something that you have to think about, something that is creative, that is superb. Therefore, but being superb, it could make you to laugh, it could make you to frown, it could make an individual to think, it could create a mental picture, it could create a deep thought. Once you have something like this, it is a figure of speech. The only thing that is left is for you to identify what figure of speech is it. Is it a metaphor? Is it a simile? Is it synecdoche? Is it onomatopoeia? And so on. So let's look at the example that I have here. A simple example. He said, I am so hungry, I could eat a horse. If somebody say, I'm so hungry to the extent that I can eat a horse, that I could eat a horse, that I am so hungry that I can eat an elephant, you know that this thing does not retain literal meaning again. The person is exaggerating things. Instead of saying, I'm very hungry, as simple as that, it means the person is very, very hungry and he needs food more than anything else. But in figurative term, he or she is saying, I am hungry and I could eat an elephant. I could eat a horse. Just imagine how big an elephant is. And somebody say he will eat it or he could eat it. It means, it's just a figurative word. And since exaggeration has entered, it simply means what? Hyperbole. So number 2, he said, 1,000 oceans cannot wash away my tears. Let's assume something happened to an individual. Maybe he lost his loved one, or he lost money, or he lost a job, and so on. When he or she want to describe the situation, he say, Kai, 1,000 oceans cannot wipe away my tears concerning what happened to me today or to him or her today. So you now imagine what has happened. But the truth is, do you know what is called an ocean? It's bigger than a river. And so it's the biggest. So it's just what? Exaggeration. Which is, another name for exaggeration is what? Hyperbole. So we could say that this one is a humorous, positive hyperbole. Why this one is a negative one, though there is no textbook that you see positive and negative hyperbole. But I'm just putting it that this one makes somebody to laugh instantly. Humor. You created humor, hyperbole, laughter. Why this one could make you to be sympathetic? Beloved, or my sister, or my brother, what happened that you were a whole 1,000 ocean could not or cannot wipe away your tears? But it's also exaggeration. So, number 1, on how to identify figures of speech and know them in a sentence or in a textbook or in a notebook or anywhere you find it, even in a speech, is when that word or phrase or group of words lost their original literal meaning. That is what it means. What is being written is not what it meant or what it means. It means something more than that word. That is number 1. on how to identify a figure of speech. Number two, when a word or a phrase is used in a different way from its usual meaning in order to create effect or a particular mental picture. When a word or group of words are used in a way that they are creating a mental picture, deep thought. For example, if we say the grass was green and the flowers were red. Now, looking at it, if you say the grass was green, yes, even till tomorrow, grasses will still be green. Then again, and the flowers were red, even till tomorrow, and even before, now and after, flowers will be what? Will still be red. Grasses will still be what? Green. Except if grasses and flower dries up, they can become brown, or as the case may be, if a chemical is being applied on them. Now, we have created a mental picture. When we say grasses were green, flowers red, you have started seeing grass or grasses. You have started seeing flowers, seeing red one, seeing yellow one, and so on. So when a group of words is used differently in order to create a mental picture, you have identified a figure of speech. Number two here, to second example, he said he has a heart of stone. If we say that someone has a heart of a stone, it could mean a lot of things. It could mean the person is wicked. It could mean the person is heartless. It could mean the person does not have conscience. It could mean such individual does not care. Such individual, you can't influence him to change his mind, whether positively or negatively. So if you check it, we are creating a mental picture. How could someone that you cannot influence to change his character, behavior, belief, or thinking behave? You are creating a mental picture. A heart of stone. You can even start imagining, does it mean that his heart is not flesh? It's now stone. So whenever a word or group of words has been successfully used to create a mental picture, you have identified, or we have identified, what is called a figure of speech. But lastly here, I want to tell you that this first one, which is the grass was green and the flowers were red, has what is called literal meaning. That is why the flower is still retain the name, the nature, everything as what? Green. It means flowers will still be red, grasses will still be what? Green. While the second one, he has a heart of stone, is a figurative meaning, which is what? Imagery. But I don't want to take two things together. When I move to the next one, I will explain further. But the key thing is, number one, when word lost their original meaning, which is literal meaning, I've identified figure of speech. Number two, when group of words or phrase has been used to create a mental picture or pictures, figure of speech has been identified. Number three, you need to know the difference between a literal language and a figurative language. Yes, how to identify figures of speech and know them. Number three is that a student of literature needs to know the difference between what we call literal language and a figurative language. It's very simple. If you see that words, I just put it here because time factor. Literal language means exactly what it says. What we say, if it's still what we mean, is a literal language. Example, as I said earlier, if I say I am a boy, and I am a boy, it means literal language. I am a man, and truly I am a man. Therefore, it is what? a literal language. While figurative language uses simile, hyperbole, metaphor, personification to describe something through comparison with different things. So, figurative language uses figures of speech. It uses things like simile, metaphor, apostrophe to describe something or to compare things. So these are the two different things. So number three on how to identify a figure of speech is that you need to know the difference between literal meaning and figurative meaning. It means literal meaning, what I say is what I mean. Basically, what I say is what I mean. But figurative language, I have another meaning, or the group of words I have written or phrase has secondary meaning. That means it's not what is being written that we are saying. For example, if we say Caro is as black as charcoal, or maybe we say Chioma is as black as charcoal, we are using simile here. We are not trying to say that Chioma is actually as black as charcoal, but we are trying to compare Chioma and charcoal directly. We are trying to compare Caro and charcoal directly. So figurative language means something than what is being written. While literal language does not mean anything else. It meant that thing that is written that you can see and read, or that thing that is being spoken or said to you, and it retains it. Now let us look at example in order to buttress this point, what literal language means and what figurative language also means. Example, if we say example number one, it was raining frogs and fish all over the city. Let me quickly chip in something here for my English student as well as literature student. There are some words in English that does not have plural or plurals. Example is fish. It is wrong to say fishes. No, fish does not have plural. But forget what is written in a book like Holy Bible, the Holy Bible, because even when we were studying, and I don't want to say we were, maybe we had an agreement, let me use that word. None of us is permitted to query or cancel or alter what has been written in holy books. That means as many religious books or books like Bible, Quran, and as many, we are not permitted to say they are wrong or right. Just read to edify your spirit. So, because if you check inside Holy Bible, you will see fishes. So, but in English class and literature class, fish does not have plural. So, thank you for your attention and comprehending. Now, if we say it was raining frogs and fish all over the city, it simply means literally that there are actually frogs and fish falling from the sky. Yes, I could remember when we were small, when heavy rain fell those days, you will see some strange, at least I've seen crabs, but I don't think I've ever seen fish. But some people have testified that fish and other, will I call it, um, animals, let me put it that way, because I'm not a science student, has actually fallen from sky during the time of rain or raining season or raining hours. So if we say it was raining frogs and fish over the city, it means frogs and fish actually fell down from the sky. So it has what we call literal language. Now let's proceed to figurative language. If you say it was raining frogs and fish all over the city, it simply means that there are not actually frogs and fish falling from the sky. It means I need to use my brain to comprehend what a writer wants me to know. And in this case, it moves us to what we call context. Context. There is what we call context in English. Context simply means it could mean a setting, it could mean situation, it could mean circumstances, and many more. So let us assume that a writer has embedded this or inserted exactly these words or this quote in his writing. And he says it was raining frogs and fish all over the city. It could mean, based on context, that means based on situation, it could mean that in the city today there was a lot of chaos, or there was riot, or there was a big problem that makes both the poor and the rich to be running helter-skelter. Everybody was after safety. It could mean there was maybe outbreak of fire in the city today, and it consumed lot of goods, lot of offices, lot of things. Or it could as well mean that there was a flood in the city today, and many people were trapped. So, but based on context or situation, that is when this one will make meaning. So, figuratively, what we wrote here is not what we mean. We meant something different. But literally, what we wrote here is what we mean. That frogs and fish actually fell from the sky. Number two example, under you need to know difference between literal language and figurative language. If you say, I could eat a horse, literally it means that the person will actually eat a horse. We should be concerned. Yes, if one person can eat a horse, it means we need to know, is this person an ordinary person, or is he going to use mystic powers and so on? So we should be concerned. But it actually means that, yes, this person will eat horse. And when we come to figurative language, you say, I could eat a horse. It means that the person is not going to actually eat a horse. They are just trying to show us that they are hungry. That is hyperbole. He exaggerates the thing. Oh, I'm very, very hungry. And in fact, the way I'm hungry, give me a horse, I will finish it. Everybody will laugh. He has created humor. He has created laughter. So when we talk about how to identify figure of speech and know them in a sentence, the third way is what? Know the difference between literal language and what? Figurative language. Literal language means basically what I say is what I mean. Figurative language means no, what I said has what? Secondary meaning. It's not exactly what the way you read it is the way it is. So you need to think. And it is based on the context, situation, what the writer or a speaker meant at that moment that determine the answer to the figurative language. Now, finally, under here, I just sum it up. I say figurative language simply means hidden meaning. It has what? Hidden meaning. Figurative equal to what? Hidden meaning. Literal equal to what? Direct meaning. Yes, direct meaning, basic meaning. What I say is what I mean. While figurative is no, I have hidden concept, hidden meaning, hidden interpretation. So, thank you. Second to the last, on how to identify figures of speech and know them, is you need to classify the figures of speech. That means you need to group figures of speech into different classes. You should be able to know figures of speech that make comparison. You should be able to know figures of speech that talks about sound. Then you need to know figure of speech that is what? Showing things that are important and some that are not important, which we say unimportant. So if you are able to classify figures of speech into different categories, you will be able to identify Figures of speech in a sentence, in a group of words, in a passage, in a textbook, or in a speech, and know them. So we say figures of speech are classified into three. I said they are classified into three. Number one is the figure of speech that show a relationship or resemblance. That means there are some figure of speech that their work is to show relationship and resemblance. Sometimes I call it they show comparison. That is these figures of speech which are simile, metaphor, personification, euphemism, metonymy, and synecdoche. They showed what? What we call relationship, resemblance, or comparison. The comparison, like a simile, is direct, a metaphor is indirect. Are you getting it? So that is the next thing you need to do to, to be able to know figures of speech and identify them. Then number two under classification of figures of speech is know figures of speech that show phonetic resemblance and representing sound. And there are only three: alliteration, assonance, and onomatopoeia. Alliteration is just a repetition of consonant sound in a sequential order in lines of maybe um, poems and prose. So once there is a repetition and of a consonant, letters, or words in a sequential order in poem or prose, while assonance is a repetition of um, vowels, while litote, sorry, while onomatopoeia is what? How words sound, something like boom boom, zip zip, tick tock, and so on. So that is onomatopoeia. So when you are able to classify figures of speech to are there sound, are there show resemblance, the last one, figures of speech that shows emphasis or unimportant, that shows emphasis or unimportant. Once you are able to identify them, you know how to identify figures of speech and know them in a sentence or in a group of words or in a paragraph, textbooks, notebooks, speech, and many more. Which the ones that show emphasis or unimportant are hyperbole, antithesis, oxymoron, irony, and litotes. So antithesis place words side by side, while irony is like saying something but you mean another things, and so on. So let me now integrate two topics into one. Please subscribe to my channel if you are yet to subscribe. And if you have done that, please comment and like my videos. And if you are a prospective WAEC candidate or NECO or JAM, and you have been having issues with literature in English, please comment below and say, English master, help me. Even if you have issues in English language as well, comment and I will pick up your case and make sure you have success in your next examination. And likewise, please, if you have problem or issues in understanding certain topics, please comment below. Say, English master, treat the following topic. And I promise you in less than a week, I will come up with a teaching in such topic. I do this for fun, not for money. I just want my children, my fans, my whatsoever you call me, to write their examination and pass, as well as ability to be able to express themselves in public while speaking. So please don't forget to subscribe. Then lastly for today is on how to identify figures of speech and know them is when a word or a phrase has what we call metaphorical meaning. When we say metaphorical meaning simply means having what we call secondary symbolical meaning. Let me not confuse you with literature word or terminology. Let me give example. I'm having a marker here. This marker has what we call trademark. And the trademark could be the trade name or symbol. So the one for this marker is this thing they wrote here, which is keyite. So if you look at it, this thing is speaks beyond this marker. Another example, if you know this car called Mercedes Benz. Mercedes Benz has a symbol that they always place first at the bonnet. So that symbol that look like star is what we call secondary because it speaks the name, the car, and it speaks beyond the car. So when coming back to literature, when a word or a phrase has metaphorical meaning, metamorphose. Example, let's say a symbolic fictional narrative. Symbolic fictional narrative in the case of Animal Farm. We know Animal Farm was written by George Orwell, which is a Russian Revolution of 1917, 1917. You see, we had animals there and so on, but each animal is beyond the animal. It has another name. It has another meaning. If we say Napoleon in Animal Farm, Napoleon has another name. Even in poem, if you see a poem having something like snake, dog, bat, in fact, we have poem this year that I call bat. It speaks beyond that. Bat could be seen as unclean animal in Africa, while in China is a clean animal. While snake from the Holy Bible is seen as a deceiver, a serpent, a Satan, while in another place it could be seen as a saint. So why goat is being known as a being stubborn, unheeding to advice. So when a word has what is called metaphorical meaning, it means the word has more meaning than what is being seen or read or said. That means you have or we have identified a figure of speech. So metaphorical meaning is all about allegory. Allegory is a name of, is a figure of speech. While an allegory is subtle or hidden message embedded within a storyline. So when we talk about allegory, we talk about novel like The Lord of the Fly by William Golding, talk about Animal Farm and lot of them. And they normally talks about those novel talks about stories about maybe vices, fictive and not fictive, but majorly fictive, and things like fairy tales and so on. So that is what allegory does more. So in my next videos, I will focus more on how I will be picking figures of speech one after another. For example, if I pick metaphor, I will pick metaphor and simile and discuss how to identify them in a sentence or paragraph or in a novel. Then maybe in my next teaching, I will pick maybe hyperbole and parable and match the two together and teach. So because of time factor, I'm going to stop here. If you have any question, please ask, comment below, say English master help me. We have successfully treated 5 ways to identify figures of speech and know them. Number 1, when words lose its original meaning. Number 2, when words are used in a different way that it creates mental picture. Number 3, no difference between literal language and figurative language. Number 4, learn how to classify figures of speech into different classes they belong, and we have mentioned 3. Number 5, which is the last one, it says when a word or a phrase has what we call metaphorical meaning. So thank you for listening, thank you for viewing. Please, I still remain your loved one, which is who? English Master. Bye.